What's up, everybody? Brett here. Back today, happy to be bringing you some more Total War Warhammer 3 news. This time is going to be the Khorne roster reveal. Guys, if you've been following my channel and you've been watching me for news and just general hype, you might be wondering, Brett, why didn't you do a video on the Kislev roster reveal? And I just want to get that out of the way first. Guys, I was not impressed by the Kislev roster reveal. I feel like they're not showing... both options are kind of negative. If they're either not showing half of the roster, a lot of the low-tier skirmish cav, the Ungol dudes, they're not showing some of the low-tier artillery. I don't know why they would do that, but that seems like maybe the case. Or, to me, that's like the milder of the options. The other option is they just don't exist. So either one is depressing to me, and I didn't find that there was actually much news to be had in that roster reveal. Everything that they showed had pretty much been seen, and not only seen, but seen actually in play. So what really was there to reveal? However, the Khorne roster reveal, I scrolled down because I couldn't help myself, and there are things here that we should definitely talk about. So I'm just going to read the whole thing. So, sit down, strap in, whatever you got to do. I'm just going to read, and we're going to talk about it as I go through it. So welcome back to the roster reveals for Total War Warhammer 3. The Blood God thirsts, the Skull Throne hungers, and the forces of Khorne venture to the battlefield for harvest. They are single-minded, bloody, and potent, defined by a distinct hatred of a resistance to magic. The cowardice of ranged combat has little appeal, beyond the exception of cannons, which broadside enemies with the skulls of those Khorne has consumed. The mortal races cannot hope to match his army's ferocity, and the other Chaos Gods cannot survive in a toe-to-toe fight. Should they run rampant, Khorne's forces will cleave the heads from all they find in the never-ending quest to please their god. Below you'll find all the details of each unit you can recruit as a servant of Khorne. As our first roster reveal for one of the demon factions, you will see some things you recognize from other Chaos factions, but also plenty of completely new lords, heroes, and units. Total War Warhammer 3 is still in development, so what you're seeing may be subject to change, and that's exactly why we haven't given precise details for each stat. Okay. Yeah. So... oh my god, also the Kislev roster, everyone rides a horse or a bear. That hurt my soul so much that I almost couldn't make myself make. It's the biggest nerd complaint ever, but Katarina not being able to have her unique ice sled straight out of Frozen or Chronicles of Narnia is very painful to me. And yeah, everyone gets a bear. More bears for the bear god, I suppose. Alright, Khorne unit roster. Skarbrand, that's the legendary lord that we're dealing with. We already knew that, but let's read a little bit about him. The Bloodthirster Skarbrand was once the greatest of all Khorne's demons. No other had piled so many skulls before the Skull Throne. One dark day, Skarbrand's fierce pride grew hot, and blinded by rage, he smote the Blood God a mighty blow. Incandescent with wrath, Khorne cursed Skarbrand's name and choked all personality from him, leaving only the bottomless rage that had caused him to attack. Since that fateful day, Skarbrand has wandered the mortal and immortal realms, drowning his sins in the blood of the slain, though he no longer has the wit to fully understand why. Skarbrand is a ludicrous force on the battlefield, a titan of blood and rage. Even in his disgraced state, his incredible commitment to Khorne makes Skarbrand ferocious in his pursuit of enemies, near impervious to magic, and legendary commander on the demonic horns of Khorne. He is constantly on the warpath, seeking out only that which is detailed in the battle cry, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. Oh my god, the Exalted Bloodthirsters might even look cooler than Skarbrand. I gotta wait to see. Unique abilities and skills, he has Wrathful Reaper. Skarbrand, once in the midst of battle, will not be distracted and will kill until the killing is done. Nothing will stand before his fury. This doesn't tell me anything. And then Rage Embodied, all those who see the exiled one in battle are drawn to the ferocity of his combat. They will join him even if it means their death. Once again, kind of doesn't tell me much. Either it's some sort of taunt, or it's... we're looking either here at rampage mechanics, or temporary, your enemies change sides. That's crazy. Look how sick the Khorne, the Exalted Bloodthirster looks. This dude is insane. And they're even showing off some of the variants of the heads that they could have and some of the weaponry that they could have. A little bit of the armor here as well. Excellent codpiece. It's very important that you have if you're going into war. Exalted Bloodthirsters are not only the deadliest of Khorne's demons, but the mightiest of all demon kind. A single such beast is a harbinger of bellowing death, destructive beyond telling, and lives only to slaughter, maim, and destroy all that it encounters. These guys are the Lord choices. It is the fury of war given form, the unfettered primal rage of the world made manifest. and such should be expected of a beast whose master is the dark god of bloodletting, slaughter, and murder. Second only to Skarbrand in their power both on and off the battlefield, exalted bloodthirsters are monstrous, destructive, and incredible forces of nature. Terrifying, flying, blood-fueled deathbringers, they lead only the mightiest of warhosts. So the fact that they fly is pretty sick. Skarbrand, I don't think flies. His wings were destroyed when he was cast down by Khorne. But he's a foot lord. I'm expecting him to be massive. Though it's hard to tell when you stand next to large demons. But I cannot wait to have just armies led by exalted bloodthirsters. Those dudes seem sick. And then the Herald of Khorne we saw in one of the last trailers with their huge flaming swords. These dudes look awesome as well. I like these guys a lot. Different variants you can see here, unarmored and armored. Most feared of all amongst the bloodletters are the dread heralds of Khorne. To hear their call is to know your skull will be collected in mere moments by the deliberate, merciless leaders of Khorne's armies. As a herald's rage grows, all nearby demons of Khorne become gripped by an irresistible fury that lends further intensity to the carnage. I'm thinking these guys are also lord choices, although I thought they might be hero choices. We'll have to see if they say it below. They hack and cleave their foes until there is nothing left save a mound of corpses and another victory for the blood god. Occasionally, a particularly favored herald of Khorne is granted a juggernaut, mighty beasts of groaning iron and brass, taller than a man and possessed of crushing mass, to better pursue his master's goals. Such a pairing is far deadlier than the sum of its parts. Should a foe survive the frenzied biting and goring, they are likely to be crushed beneath its brass body or cut down by the rider. Juggernauts are the big mechanical rhinos they ride around on. Those who go above and beyond the call to slaughter may be granted a blood throne, which is sick. Those are the motorcycle looking, I guess they're cannons in this. I don't know if they were always cannons. I wish I knew a little bit more of the Khornate unit roster and lore from the OG times. A mighty demon engine armored in brass and driven into battle by iron-shod wheels which crush and mangle all who stand in its path. It might not shoot cannon. From atop his macabre throne, the herald searches for foes whose skulls would make the most audacious offerings. Those plundered from cowards are fed into the blood throne's baleful workings, consumed in fire to bring the demon engines fresh vigor. Those taken from the valiant are claimed by the herald and fused with the throne itself to stand throughout eternity as grim monument to the fertility of opposing Khorne. Yeah, Juggernaut and blood throne. Okay, got it. Pretty sure the blood throne is indeed different from the artillery pieces that we're going to see. I imagine they function extremely similar to like Khorne Hellebrands and the Dark Elves thrones that they have. It's kind of weird murder chariots. Alright, yeah, so those are indeed lore choices, because now we're getting to the hero choices. The cultists of Khorne can be found across the world. Less fond of the clandestine trappings that accompany the other dark powers, the blood cults quickly take hold in arenas and fighting pits, although secret martial lodges dedicated to the Lord of Skulls have been discovered in the higher echelons of society. And the cultists of Khorne that establish and propagate such sects, roaming far and wide to serve their god, spreading corruption in their stead. Their methods are as often insidious as they are direct, from founding illicit fighting dens to causing all-out riots. Strong cultists are constantly hunting out rivals to fight, with the victor claiming the slain warriors as their own. Some will aspire to rise and become true champions of Khorne, but there are plenty eager supplicants who can simply wish to murder and slay in the blood god's name, and so spread the cult's influence far and wide. Some ride a great warhorse, a sign of status for only the best warriors. Their steeds ridden by these tribes are powerful beasts, foul-tempered and strong of limb. Hopefully they're also large horses and don't make chaos ponies still a thing in Total Warhammer 3. There's a mod that makes the horses bigger so that it doesn't look like chaos warriors are just enormous men riding little horses. Hopefully great war horses are actually great. Once a rider has broken such a horse, it will remain loyal to him until death, but remain vicious and unruly should a stranger approach. Fed on a diet of human flesh and watered-down blood, these snorting, high-spirited steeds have a glint of intelligent menace in their eyes and will trample, kick, and bite as if berserk when engaged at close quarters. And then lastly, the Blood Reaper here. Bloodletters who have proven their devotion and legitimized their existence. Blood Reapers are some of Khorne's most deadly individual fighters. Each carries a hellblade, a jagged iron sword whose blackened blade glows with heinous enchantment. A wound from one of these weapons can slay even the hardiest hero, draining their soul and sucking dry their shriveled corpse. The Hellblade is formed from the Blood Reaper's own essence, and can never be discarded nor torn from its grasp. Each life taken by it strengthens the Blood Reaper, fueling both its power and rage. As such, a Blood Reaper is even more terrifying at a battle's close than its start, having gorged itself on the slaughter it has caused. So the Blood Reaper and the Lord option variant both get stronger in battle. However, the Lord variant seems to buff the entire army as it gets stronger, which is neat. If that were not enough to crush and terrify the foe, a deadly combination of battle-frenzied Blood Reaper and the unstoppable crushing mass of a Juggernaut can appear. There are also those that sit atop a mighty Blood Throne, got it, a physical manifestation of the Blood God's favor. The Blood Reaper that resides atop its pinnacle does not rest, got it. Favored by their god, Blood Reapers are the locus of any fight they charge into, bringing the energy of their god and his fury together. They can inspire those around them to ever-increasing ferocity, hardiness, and murder. Would be nice to see pictures, but that's okay mostly, I guess. This guy looks pretty sick. I'm wondering if he's... I don't know, I haven't seen him yet. These pictures are pretty intense looking. It's hard to tell what's what in some of them. Khorne Infantry, Chaos Warriors of Khorne, probably pretty basic stuff. Here's more the Blood Letters, not the Hero or the Lord variant. So they have 3 different versions of the same demon guy. But let's read the Chaos Warriors first. I actually just played Chaos in a quick battle, and I'm excited to get to that and cast that for the channel. But a Chaos Warrior of Khorne has no need of food, drink, or sleep, for he is nourished by the carnage that he wreaks, or wreaks. He has nothing but contempt for the weak or the cowardly, and goes about the business of murder with a vengeance, for there is always a part of the man who was that rages against that which he has become. A Chaos Warrior's only solace is in slaughter, the fulfillment of his new existence as an instrument of his blasphemous God's will, and at battle's end his armor is splattered with the lifeblood of the slain. Chaos Warriors of Khorne are fighters of unmatched prowess. Their strength is infernal, and their bodies are as tough as the Iron Mountains. Imbued with the power of the Blood God and encased in suits of hell-forged armor, a Chaos Warrior is equal to several battle-hardened mortal men. They are no longer truly human, but living weapons, honed perfectly for the bloody task before them. So there's an axe and shield, a dual axe, and a halberd variant. So it just forgoes, very similar to Chaos Undivided, except instead of the great weapon variant, you get a dual axe variant. This is actually, no, you know what, I was about to say kind of similar to the Minotaurs, but not really. Of course, Minotaurs don't have halberds. They do indeed have the great weapon variant. Notable characteristics. Like many of Khorne's chosen, enter a frenzy so long as they're enjoying the battle. So, okay, they've got frenzy. Berserkers with their dual axes are brutal and terrifying anti-infantry warriors who will tear unsuspecting foes from limb to limb. I'm just guessing they have a bonus to infantry. And then Khorne has few non-demon followers in his army. Whether that makes them cattle or commanders is up to you. Interesting. I don't know what that means, but interesting. Could be a mechanic. Could be a mechanic. I don't know if it's just referring to the fact that you could just field entire armies of demons, or occasionally bring in humans. Humans being not necessary, but interesting. Okay. Blood Letters, we've kind of seen these guys, but they have quite a lot here. Pardon me, man. Talking so much always makes me yawn. Let me drink a little water when my voice goes out. The demon hordes of Khorne consist of ferocious bloodletters, deadly warriors believed to have been foremost amongst the blood god's followers in mortal life, and whose will is as implacable and blood-hungry as Khorne himself. When loosed to the fray, bloodletters sprint from one enemy to the next, hacking the foe apart before springing away in search of new victims. With each fresh kill, the bloodletters loose great shouts of victory that echo across the battlefield and chill the souls of all who hear. So we've seen these guys in some of the videos as well. I think they get stronger as they fight, but they're probably also going to be somewhat squishy, being mostly unarmored and all that. Probably extremely vulnerable to ranged fire, if I had to guess. So notable characteristics: an advancing pack of bloodletters is a fearful sight. Okay, so maybe they cause fear. Gain power as they kill, infusing the Hellblades, so they get a buff the more kills they have. And as with all demons, will disintegrate and flee. So they don't simply rout from the battlefield. They disintegrate, as do, think of something more akin to the undead in Total Warhammer 2. They'll begin to disappear, which makes sense. Demons go back to the Chaos Realms when their leadership is broken, so they'll start to degrade. And then here we go. Exalted Bloodletters of Khorne. Khorne's chosen, the naked slayers, the takers of skulls, deadly warriors believed to have been foremost amongst the blood god's followers in mortal life, and whose will is as implacable and blood-hungry as Khorne himself. Exalted bloodletters gather in regiments, chanting their brutal praises to Khorne. In the fashion of the warriors they are believed to have once been, each unit marches beneath a gore-soaked banner, upon which the names of their victims. I hope they actually have oh my god, if they're bringing banners. Ooh, they bring... Is this a hint that banners are going to be in the game? People have been wanting banners forever. Notable characteristics: the bigger, badder, more murderous brothers and cousins, so these guys are just bigger versions. Share many of the same traits, only stronger, more accurate, and hardier, so better melee attack, probably more HP, probably bigger weapon strength. And while a straight upgrade, more expensive and later in the tech tree. Got it. So Khorne, Cavalry, and Chariots. The Gore Beast Chariot of Khorne. So we've seen Gore Beasts before. They're the big gorilla-looking guys. So they have their own Gore Beasts. Are even heavier and sturdier than other Chaos Chariots. No normal beast would have the strength to pull such a massive instrument of war, and they are therefore pulled into battle by a Gore Beast, a muscular creature renowned for its violent temperament. These grunting brutes strike their prey with such shocking force that those not impaled upon jutting spikes are torn apart by the impact. Even the lowliest of beasts recognize the bulky shape of a Gore Beast as synonymous with death. Each ironclad chariot drawn by one of these formidable mutants is thus followed at some distance by circling carrion crows and slinking scavenger hounds, waiting to feast on the bloody remnants of a Gore Beast's grim harvest. So those Gore Beast chariots, ridden by followers of Khorne, are constantly in a frenzy from the thrill of the hunt and the kill. Cool, so frenzy. This puts them at a disadvantage when it comes to defense. Something they don't worry about, okay. And the cheapest option for cavalry on the Khorne horde, but still an absolute force on the battlefield. I'm thinking, I mean, this is obviously not a Gore Beast. I'm thinking that we're about to get, like, this is the higher variant. So Gore Beast being the basic version. However, when you start putting them on the Skull Crushers, that will be the higher tier variant. So, okay, Blood Crushers. Here we go. The most favored of all Bloodletters are granted the honor of becoming Blood Crushers. Blood Crushers are Khorne's shock cavalry. Yeah, Juggernaut rather. I misspoke. They're not Skull Crushers. They're actually, these are Juggernauts. Okay, got it. I'm trying to get all my terminology, my nomenclature correct before I actually get a chance to play. But the Blood Crushers and then eventually I guess the Skull Crushers are like tiered cavalry. So here we go. So Blood Crushers are Khorne's shock cavalry, a deadly combination of battle-frenzied bloodletter and the unstoppable crushing mass of a Juggernaut. When the demonic legions go to war, bellowing hordes of Blood Crushers stampede across the battlefield, trampling Khorne's foes into unrecognizable pulp. When battle begins, Blood Crushers relentlessly hurl themselves at the strongest point of the enemy's lines. Here they hack, maim, and gore their way through the strongest troops the foe can muster, exalting Khorne's name with savage joy for each slain. So, powerful demonic shock cavalry, providing additional physical resistance. Physical resistance makes sense, although to me, it's like you could almost just completely just armor the hell out of them. They are completely made of metal. And as demons, vulnerable to banishment, but able to rout. That is powerful. Because we don't really have something like that in the game yet. If you think about like the vampire cavalry, so think about like their inability. God dang it, my brain is like not working. God, what are those guys called? The heavy cav for the vampire counts. I keep wanting to say dragon princes. Obviously, that's not correct. Oh my god, I can't believe I can't remember. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. The heavy cav for the vampire counts. They go in, they fight, and eventually they're not the tankiest, so they eventually crumble off and die. But these guys will crumble off and die, but they're super tanky, so you could almost just leave these guys in combat and they'll be more effective that way. They're less punishing to people with poor micro, and they actually encourage you to just let them get stuck in. As long as they're not completely losing, they should have a good time just staying in combat. I'm sure they have a ridiculous charge bonus that you'll want to take advantage of, but if you leave them in combat, it won't be the worst. I can't believe my brain will not pull that out for me. No, I'll get it eventually. Skull Crushers, here we go. So, better versions, no doubt. Exalted in the eyes of Khorne, These murderous knights are gifted with juggernauts to carry them to war. These massive demonic mounts are made of living metal and pure rage. They are dealers of untold destruction who grind their foes beneath steel sinews and brass hooves. As the blood-crazed Blood Knights. They are Blood Knights. Got it. Thank you. I've been reading all about blood, and I probably got over flooded with blood. Blood-crazed knights bellow their battle cries. Their fearsome mounts snort steam and paw out divots the size of shallow graves before stampeding towards the ranks of their prey and flattening anything in the way. There's so much fluff in this that I'd probably be done reading already if it was just actual information. Notable characteristics, the most powerful human force in the Khorne army. So these guys are rode by humans and not demons. Their powerful steeds stoke fear in the heart of their enemies. They cause fear. And one of the most terrifying, powerful charges in the old world, as it should be. They should have ungodly charge. I mean, who knows how much something like this in reality would weigh? Thousands of pounds of, iron just crushing into you in the shape of like a rhinoceros dog, like being ridden by a giant scary man also clad completely in metal. Like the charge should be unbelievable. It should, I mean, Grom has one of the dumbest charges in the game. His charge is like starts like at base in the 90s or something like that in his campaign. These guys should be in that realm. I think Grom's charge is a little overtuned, if you ask me, considering Cetra's charge. But yeah, these guys should be unbelievable. Khorne, monsters and beasts. Okay, we're getting to like the big reveal at the bottom, but we gotta do our due diligence here first. Chaos Warhounds, we've seen these dudes. In Norsca, wolves and hounds prowl in the flickering shadows of the campfires made by the barbarian tribespeople of the frozen lands. The further north the tribe dwells, the more likely it is that the hounds that follow them will be mutants, their bodies swollen by the energies of chaos. Brutish and bloodthirsty, the warhounds of chaos are natural killers built of muscle and fang that lurk in the wilderness in ravening packs. They will even charge a spear wall with total abandon, their only concern the moment when their slobbering jaws sink into juicy, yielding flesh. Exceptionally quick and good for tearing down low-armored units in the enemy backline. Nothing new there. The lowest tier unit in their army, but poor fodder to hold a front line. They're just puppers. Makes sense. And then Khorne-specific flesh hounds fulfill a similar role later in the tech tree. Okay, so these, I think, are the flesh hounds of Khorne. Probably more akin to the Norskins' versions of, they have their warhounds, but then they also have the ice wolves. So they function differently, but you can kind of use them the same, and one being a little stronger than the other. So that's what I'm expecting. Basic hounds, and then you get the Khorne hounds, which look sick, and I can't wait to use those guys. And then Chaos Furies. Furies are yowling shards of malevolent energy, chaos in its purest form, with little in the way of intelligence. Anytime you stumble over saying the word intelligence, there's some irony there. They are utterly subservient to the whims of the dark gods and shift in aspect and power as the balance of the dark pantheon alters. They are easily subjugated by other demons, whom they regard with a mix of dread and awe. Furies swarm at the edges of battle, avoiding the thickest fighting if they can. Only when they sight a vulnerable victim do they descend, a railing mass from which there could be no escape. So these guys, think of harpies, I think is how they'll play. Extremely fast moving if lightweight flyers, able to deploy ahead of the front lines to harass the enemy. Probably also fair comparison to Fellbats as well. And then the Mark of Khorne confers additional spell resistance and a more powerful charge over Furies dedicated to other gods. So expect to see Furies in every Chaos army, which would make sense. And yes, spell resistance is very fitting of Khorne. So Flesh Hounds are Khorne's foremost tool of vengeance. When a being, mortal or demon, rouses the blood god's ire, he rises from the skull throne and sounds a single sonorous note on a great brass horn. This blast echoes through the mortal and demonic realms like a peal of portentous thunder, rousing flesh hounds from their slumber and loosing them upon the hunt. The hunt. It sounds to me like The Witcher. If you ever played that, The Hunt, they had those hounds that go out. More frosty though. Few can survive gory pursuit by these relentless carnivores, for flesh hounds are faultless and instinctive trackers, able to harry their quarry across fen, forest, and stone without once losing the scent. Notable characteristics: powerful jaws and a scent for blood make these... no spoilers. Scent for blood make these powerful, fast units. Collars of Khorne give them incredible spell resistance above and beyond normal demons. I mean, it's nice to have spell resistance. And then you can call them Little Cavalry because you'll never have to speak to them face to slobbering teeth. Nice. Yeah, can't wait. I love these types of units. I can't wait to use them. And then Spawns of Khorne, we've seen these guys in some of the reveals. A grisly death is not the worst fate that one who has trod the path of Khorne can suffer, for the Blood God is inhuman and whimsical, and he makes no distinction between a beneficial or disadvantageous gift. Even the most vaunted Chaos Lord can find himself disfigured in an instant, his body racked by a multitude of debilitating mutations. Should Khorne continue to pile on his dubious gifts, the recipient will devolve into a mindless, hideous creature known as Chaos Spawn. No regard for human life, much less their own, they're unbreakable. Will run completely out of control once engaged and injured, fire and forget. I wonder if they're going to be cheaper than normal Chaos Spawn. But yeah, unbreakable. They apparently have Rampage, and as happy bashing down a castle door as they are bashing skulls. So they have Siege Breaker, which is pretty important. Okay. So guys, the Minotaurs of Khorne. We've been hoping to get to these guys. We've seen them in some leaks, but I can't wait to see what the specifics are regarding these awesome dudes. So, to the Minotaurs of Khorne, a battlefield is a place of maddening excess. The scent of gore in their flaring nostrils drives them wild, and they bellow their hunger for all to hear. They charge with a thundering impact, horns lowered to impale, then strike blow after blow against their hapless enemy. Once their victims have been hacked apart, the Khornators, I like that, slake their thirst by tearing at raw flesh with their gore-encrusted nails, and gulping down great hunks of steaming meat, even whilst the battle rages on around them. No spoilers. No spoilers. When called to war, these beasts reach into the piles of weapons and armor heaped in offering before the herdstones, equipping themselves with the largest and most formidable weapons they can find. These weapons were laid in celebration of victory, their erstwhile owners slain upon some forgotten battlefield, and amongst the rusted blades can sometimes be found those once carried by the warriors of long-lost empires, crafted using methods of metals no longer known to any of the peoples of the world. Fragments of tarnished armor that might have been made for the guards of long-dead, forgotten kings. They have a dual axe and a great weapon variant, so no shielded variant for them, which makes sense. And then notable characteristics, fueled by the scent of blood, their power increases with every enemy slain. We've seen that. Pledged to Khorne due to their relentless need for fresh meat. And then armored, armor-piercing, fearless, and destructive. How armored remains to be seen. More yawns incoming. Sorry, guys. But, I mean, normal Minotaurs for the Beastmen are not armored at all. So anything is an improvement. I expect to see them around maybe 80 armor, something like that. I mean, we haven't seen armored Minotaurs yet. That is going to be pretty sick. And then, guys, all right, this is, I think, the biggest reveal here. The Soul Grinder of Khorne. We have not yet seen such a thing revealed to us. So take a second and look at this. It's pretty sick. It's very, to me, very like 40k. And I don't know if this guy was in the original Khorne army roster, if he was something that was supplemented later. But he looks awesome. I'm not against any of this stuff, but let's read it together. When a demon's physical body is slain, he can surrender his true name to the Forge of Skulls, or the Forge of Souls, rather. The dark bargain sealed, his crippled essence is bound to a mighty warp metal hulk. This is he reborn as a soul grinder. A soul grinder's clinking tread shakes the ground with every step, and is devilishly fast for a creature its size, able to scuttle swift as a horse's gallop, or even faster should the scent of battle touch its nostrils. Piston-driven legs thud home with sickening force, crushing to bloody pace those beneath. I'm expecting this to be a single entity, though I might be wrong. Maybe there are multiples of these together in a unit. A truly horrific amalgamation of metal and flesh that causes terror, that makes sense. Can fire its extremely powerful weaponry while on the move, so it has ranged attacks. That makes sense. Let's look at this thing. Maybe I can see a little bit better. Claw breakout, leg breakout, chassis. Okay. So I was hoping to get a better picture of what type of weaponry this thing might fire, but kind of hard to tell. And then highly resistant to physical and magical harm, and really tremendously awful to kill. I wonder if they explode when they die. That would be pretty sick. So high physical resistance, high magical resistance, and then if you manage to actually kill them in melee, which is probably what you're going to have to do, they explode. That's my guess. Pretty sick, though. Or maybe they cast like a soul blight or some sort of like AoE type effect when they die. Alright, bloodthirsters. We've seen plenty of these so far. Those far enough away from the Bloodthirsters to survive their onslaught commonly recall an overwhelming impression of vast size and unchecked barbarity, a roaring and snarling death riding upon Stygian wings that eclipse the sun. A Bloodthirster's ruddy skin is covered with coarse fur and brass armor, slick and gleaming with the blood of innumerable victims. This armor is forged upon the demon's flesh by Khorne himself, and thereafter becomes a living part of the demon, even whilst maintaining a brutal intelligence of its own. As such, even the Bloodthirster's armor is wrathful and longs for slaughter. Flight, even on tattered wings, is still flight. They can fly. Flaming magical attacks that can roast men, crush larger creatures, and destroy gates. Very cool. They're siege attackers. They have anti-large, and or maybe they just have different variants of Bloodthirsters, but they have flaming attacks. And as one of the largest, most terrifying beasts on the battle, has an advantage versus almost everything. So maybe they have anti-infantry. They can roast men and larger creatures. Maybe they have anti-infantry and anti-large. I think that'd be a first. I don't think there's any creature in the game that has such a thing. That'd be pretty sick, though. All right. Khorne artillery and war machines. The Blood Shrine, mounted upon a carnage-fueled demon engine, the Blood Shrine judders, spins, and zooms across battlefields at great speeds, desperate to be smothered in gore, and so draw the gaze of their mighty patron and his most powerful servants. The Blood Shrine is a mobile altar that will empower Karneth's demons to greater heights of butchery and wanton slaughter. So this is definitely just like the mount option that we were talking about earlier. A massive near-living chariot designed to grind lesser creatures beneath its heels. Probably anti-infantry bonus. Heals every moment it's in melee combat with enemies, so good. It has like a conditional regeneration, which is strong. And then boosts morale for nearby allies as they rally to its terrifying cause. And then probably gives a leadership bonus, which is good. It'll prevent crumbling and disintegration from your allies. And then Skull Cannon here. As the Skull Cannon grinds, this is the motorcycle cannon I was thinking about earlier. And this looks like it's an actual... Okay, so we have the different variants of the thrones. This one might be the basic one. Perhaps. And this one looks more like an altar to me. We'll see. As the Skull Cannon grinds across the battlefield, its spiked wheels and rollers mangle everything in its path. Those who somehow survive the initial onset of the grinders are fed screaming into the Skull Cannon's gaping maw. They are to be roasted by demonic fire and ground to fragments. Only the skulls, so beloved to Khorne, are retained and fed into the mighty cannon atop the machinery from which the demon engine takes its name. They slam into the enemy ranks, scattering foes like ninepins and leaving a trail of scorched and blazing dead behind. So chariots that are also artillery. Beautiful. And the notable characteristics: Khorne answer to the battlefield artillery is still a deadly force in melee combat. Harvest their enemies' skulls for more ammo. Oh, that's cool. You can pick up ammo. And then can fire and move to keep the enemy on the back foot. Probably their strongest ability. And then let's read this last bit here. Maybe there's some last tidbit. If you're looking for an army to unleash your rage and fury upon an enemy, to make true total war with, and burn all around it to the ground with little regard for allegiances, you may be able to stop reading our roster reveals here. Oh, but what delights and mysteries you may miss. A. The Khornate forces require precise planning and strategy to make up for their clear weaknesses. But once an enemy is caught, they are doomed. Keep to the battle cry. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. So what are their weaknesses? A lack of ranged options. Although skull cannons are ranged, and so too appear to be the soul grinders. But they have almost certainly incredible mobility, with stuff like Minotaurs going to be pretty fast. Flesh Hounds of Khorne should be pretty fast. Juggernauts are going to be pretty fast. Bloodthirsters are going to be fast. Like, everything is going to be fast. Even these Bloodletters are probably at 50-ish speed, right? So they're going to close the lines really quickly. And if you haven't done enough range damage to them in the meantime, you're going to expect to get overwhelmed by the incredible, melee prowess. I mean, that's how I think they should play. I don't know if they're missing anything from their roster. This seems pretty good to me. I don't know if they have some more basic, like, cultist level fighters who are like chaff. Think of something almost like flagellants. It's like some unbreakable lunatics that you could just throw in, almost like peasants. Use them like peasants or flagellants to muck up the beginning of a fight. I would like to see some inclusion like that. I don't know if that was always in the roster. But just like Khorne disciples, cheap guys you could put in the front of your formation to get smashed by quarreler shots or high elf archer volleys. But I don't know. I don't know what else might be missing. If you guys know a little bit more about the roster than me, for sure, let me know. But here, you know, they've got the Furies. These guys are also super fast moving. They're going to be on you and encircling you insanely quickly. And a high tier, high level player is going to be able to fully envelop your army. And if you brought a lot of ranged assets, you're going to have a problem keeping these guys out of your back line, especially when you consider the chariot play, the heavy charges of the juggernaut. Like, they're going to break through your front lines, and they're going to be in and amongst all your juicy, you know, ranged bits pretty quickly, I feel. I love playing as the dwarves, so I'm thinking, like, man, how do I stop these guys as the dwarves? I'm going to need, like, charge defense against all day long. It's going to be dwarf longbeards with great weapons all the way down, and then probably like thunderers and stuff to pierce their heavy armor and to also give them a chance to fight off like the weaker stuff in melee. But I can't wait to see how they actually play. But guys, that's going to be it for me today. A couple big reveals with the soul grinder and such. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this little talk through, I guess, read through. My name is Brett. Channel's Goodtalk Gaming. And let's just, you know what? I saw this button. Let's click on it real quick. Did we learn anything? I mean, we expected all of this. The Boyars are one of the Lord options. The Ice Witches are the others. The Frost Maidens are like lesser Ice Witches. Patriarchs, I guess we learned about these basically being like the Archlectors for the Empire. We saw Kossars for the first time, though we weren't actually shown them. I guess we learned that pretty much every unit, infantry unit for Kislev is like a dual hybrid unit. Winged Lancers, the Griffin Legion look even cooler. Bears. The Snow Leopard, I'm waiting to be impressed by this creature. I hope I am. The Elemental Bear is pretty sick, but once again, perhaps overdoing it a little bit. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was hoping we need basic artillery. We need sleds that aren't coasting on magic icicles, and some light cav, perhaps, you know, some more like Ungol themed army units, although maybe they're keeping them in reserve for either another reveal or some sort of DLC type function. But guys, that's it for me today. Like I said, hope you enjoyed it. Take care, y'all, and I'll see you at the next big news reveal. Later, guys.